I believe that menopause is an initiation into power.
Midlife butterfly, a woman in the sacred in between. She's not who she once was, and not quite who she's becoming yet. She's unraveling, awakening, remembering. She's navigating life transitions, divorce, loss, reinvention, moves, with a burning desire for freedom, joy, and soul-led living. She feels the pull to rise, to fly. She is no longer afraid of her own wings.
I believe that menopause is an initiation into power. Those are the words of our dear guest today, Luce Beaulieu. She is a transformational powerhouse guiding women through the sacred portal of menopause. She is a certified coach, social transformation specialist, feminist, and innovator. Luz brings her lived wisdom to the table with heart and heat, and I am proof of that. Now, at 52, she's on the other side of the menopause transition, and she's here to tell the truth. It's not the end, it's a rebirth. Her journey through marriage, divorce, motherhood, and awakening in a deeply satisfying and hot love life has shaped her mission to help women move through perimenopause with dignity, empowerment, and joy. For Luz, menopause cracked her open, not just physically, but spiritually. It became a getaway to wisdom, deeper intimacy, conscious love, financial freedom, and meaningful work. She now helps women embrace this rite of passage as a powerful initiation into their most authentic embodied selves. It's such a pleasure to have you here, sister. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, sister.
Ah, well, first of all, I want you to add something else to that bio that I just read. If you want to tell a little bit about your story, where you are now, what was before, what you are now before we dive into more about the topics of Tantra and sexuality in midlife.
Mm. Yeah, so I realized that the bio that I wrote was actually before my 53rd birthday. So I'm actually 53.
Okay.
So I'm 2.5 years post-menopause, and my menopause transition was a real initiation. And the initiation, how can I put it, blueprint for women, the feminine initiation, in other words, is about really going deep. So if anybody's looking at us, or if you're not uh, actually not looking at us, it's a U-shaped shape. So you basically go down
Mhm.
and then you go up. So you have to go down before you go up again. Whereas the hero's journey, so which is more masculine, is going on a quest and discovering yourself through hardships and things like that. But for us, it's this U-shaped where we go really, really deep in the underworld. We die, we have some kind of an identity death. And once we rebirth, we reawaken, then we can become transformed and we can have another identity. So that was my case with my menopause initiation,
Okay.
which was about 3 years ago. And ever since then, when I have reemerged, completely transformed, I realized that my mission was really to help women in midlife reawaken, rediscover their true feminine power.
Mm. Yes. We are all here for empowerment, that's for sure. I love that.
Yes.
I love that because I think because of the patriarchy, it's considered something bad between quotes. And as you said, I do believe it's a rebirth, and it's so fucking powerful because we know ourselves better at midlife. So having and the knowledge well that you have, that's what I want you to share more in here. It's it's being actually more powerful as a woman.
Yes,
Yeah. Mhm.
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, let's start with what is actually Tantra?
Tantra,
Uh-huh.
the eternal question. Tantra is basically a spiritual path that was originally developed for everyday people. So it's a spiritual path for the people who are not the renunciates. So the renunciates were the people who chose to be priests or priestesses or nuns or monks or all of these things.
Okay.
And Tantra, of course, in India was the path for the everyday man or woman, right? And so Tantra could be done as a person who is married with children, being in life. And so this is really the essence. And what I love about Tantra is that everything is included, right?
Mm.
Dark and light, anger and joy, ecstasy and horrific pain, and everything in between these different poles as well. And so the practice, because I don't consider myself a tantrika, I'm not trained enough to say I'm a tantrika, but I
Mhm.
approach life and I definitely approach guiding and coaching women with a tantric approach. And so what that means is that, and also a shamanic approach to life, to midlife, to relationships, to self-love, to sexuality, to the body, to all these things. And so, what that means essentially is that it's important to become intimate with the things that we experience. So, if I'm experiencing something like shame, then how can I meet shame? And how can I get intimate with shame? And then how can I feel shame to be able to process it, to go through it instead of resisting and hiding myself from it? So it's
Uh-huh.
about getting intimate with every single emotion, every single part of us, so that we can experience all of life. Because again, all is included. And
Okay.
if we go a little bit deeper into tantric tools or tantric approaches, there's different pillars to tantra. The first one is presence. So to be fully present is a
Mhm.
very tantric thing to do, especially in intimacy with a partner. Then the breath is absolutely fundamental. Energy as well is fundamental, and then what we call life force energy, even more specifically when we're talking about sexuality and orgasm, and what we also call eros, is
Okay.
also all of it is energy,
Mhm.
right?
And yeah, sorry. Yeah, because I think at least me, I related more only with that life force energy that you're saying, with sexuality. When we hear about tantra, I don't know what's the perception of other people, but at least how I have perceived it is usually just focused on that. And
Mm.
now that you're saying it has pillars, it presence, breath, and energy, then I can say I'm in the tantric part. The last part we're getting there, but eventually, but okay. So thank you for specifying that, because it's, I mean, as you said, it involves everything, and it can become a lifestyle, for what I understand that you are saying.
Absolutely. And it's something that can infuse every single part of life,
Mhm.
whether it's sexuality or doing the dishes or how you wake up in the morning, how you choose what you choose to cultivate, what you
Yeah.
pay attention to. So again, presence, what you cultivate in terms of the energy, the thoughts, the emotions, that can be tantric. It can also be very shamanic.
Hmm.
And essentially, it all boils down to anything that is very close to the earth. So, like earth-based
Oh, okay.
spirituality. Yeah.
Mm. Okay, so that makes sense. I mean, you're very grounded, and I know you're super, you love the nature, the elements, and all here. So it makes sense that that's a good combination of knowledge that you have gained, because yeah, that's you.
Thank you.
um, so in a way of the of tantra, again, coming back to that, if we dive a little bit more into that life force energy, how can women connect to their own pleasure without, well, it could be with a partner and without having a partner.
Mm-hmm. And I'm guessing, like, specifically women in midlife going through perimenopause, menopause.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an excellent, excellent, very, very big question, which could be, 3 days of courses and workshops. The
Oh.
short answer, I think, is in any way that's available, right? So that can mean I close my eyes and I connect to my breath for 5 minutes.
Mm.
It can be I'm just going to turn around and look at my plant for 30 seconds just to have like a little bit of a pause and to feel into my body.
Mm-hmm.
I would say the most important thing is to start feeling into what is below the neck. Because we live very in
Yes.
our heads,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. I love you
And
specifying that because, yeah, that's so true. We live in our heads. Yeah.
we live in our heads, and
Mm-hmm.
also we live in front and in our screens.
Yes.
So
Mm-hmm.
in fact, if we are kind of, if we were to draw a picture of how we live, it's like 1 millimeter deep in front of our face and from the neck, from the chin up,
That is so sad.
right?
It is.
Yeah. And yet there's so much more. There's the body,
Mm-hmm.
there's all the somatic sensations inside of the body. That is life force energy. So
Yeah.
when women come to me, like, new clients, and they're like, I don't know about this somatic thing. I'm not really good with my body. Like, I don't know how this works. And they feel intimidated. And I say, just breathe, because you are being breathed. Literally, you don't have to decide anything. Your body is breathing you every single day. And when we close our eyes and we just connect with this thought, like, my body is breathing me, my heart is breathing me, right? Like, that is a thought that brings so much
Mm-hmm.
calm
Yes.
and so much connection to below the neck. And suddenly we can feel like the inside of our body has 3 dimensions and that we are
What do
a
you mean with that?
vessel.
What do you mean with those 3 dimensions? If we are not that
Well,
connected to our bodies, we might not know. So that's why I'm
exactly.
asking. Yeah.
Comparatively to this very thin veil of, awareness that we have that's like in front of our screen, and it's like very, very thin. And
Yeah.
we can suddenly feel the full vessel of our body mind.
Mm.
Yeah. And so that's a very simple way. And then there are more advanced practices like advanced breath work. There's like energy cultivation in the Taoist tradition, for example. There can be, of course, pleasure practices that can be very sensual, like with the skin. It could be like sexual practices as well, where we touch the genitals and we can even go towards orgasm. But that is just a slice of the full spectrum of what is
Yeah.
life force energy.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can you explain a bit more what is a somatic? What is somatic work? Because that word has become very famous, if I can put it that way, like lately. So if you can go, yeah, if you can explain us what does that mean?
Absolutely. So somatic refers to the soma, and the soma is the body mind in one word. Because
Oh,
in
okay.
recent science, there is literally no difference between the body and the mind. But we've been sort of taught to believe, and in this culture, there's this idea that the mind should be controlling, should be above the body, right?
Mm-hmm.
This Judeo-Christian way of, thinking.
I'm
It's also,
thinking.
yeah, it's coming from, hundreds of years ago, where there was this colonization of people,
Mm-hmm.
but also the colonization of bodies. And the
Mm-hmm.
mind, we can see it as the leader of the body, we can also see it as the oppressor of the body. Because if we're having certain thoughts, these thoughts are going to create biology. It's going to create chemistry in our body. It's going to create hormones. And we have hormone receptors all over our bodies. It's going to create like a chemical mix in our body that's going to be either conducive to life force energy and pleasure or not. It's going to be toxic for us. So it's going to be like stressful thoughts, for example, things like that. And so all that to say that in the most recent scientific publications, there is no difference between the body mind. And so for some people who, for example, want to go in that direction of there's no separation, they call it the soma. And the soma is the body mind together. And so when we talk about somatic approaches, we talk about approaches that include the body and also include the mind. For example, as opposed to things like cognitive behavioral therapy, which is really just mind-based,
Mind.
right? And
Yeah.
so one famous area of expertise of practice is called somatic experiencing. And that is a really famous area of, that I really love, that I harvest a lot of wisdom from. That was started by Peter Levine. And so in somatic experiencing, we really include the nervous system, we include the body into the unfurling of trauma, for example, or we go into the body's wisdom to really try and see like what are the unresolved patterns or the unresolved trauma that the body mind needs to work through to become whole, to become healthy again.
Oh wow. It's it's very deep.
It is.
Yeah. And yeah, as you said, because it's it's amazing how we actually think, or we have been programmed to think, that our mind is the one who knows and the one in charge, when in reality, no, it's our body. Our body can sense much faster than our mind, even when we're going to take a decision. When when we get that intuition between quotes, it's actually our body telling us to react to something that is off.
Absolutely. And I don't know if you know the Heart Math Institute. It's an amazing
I
scientific and practical institute. They did a bunch of research and they discovered that the heart knows before the mind when something is going to happen.
Wow.
Like literal seconds, and seconds is a lot.
Yeah, of course.
Seconds before the mind is like, oh, this is going to happen, the heart already knows.
Wow. That gave me chills just to you saying that. Yeah. But then we will live with our minds. So then we're going to listen to the mind, and we're not going to listen to what our body is telling us.
Yeah, exactly.
Ah, what has been one of the more, I don't know, like relevant or uh, blown mind experience that you have had when connecting more with your body?
Mm, great question. Where to start? Just one.
Oh, you can say a bit more. No worries.
Okay, I'm just gonna talk about one, but
Yeah.
there's been like so many, especially with breath work. Breath work has
Okay.
been like a real eye and body opener, like for me over the last 3 years.
Yeah.
But the experience, I would say that it was about a little less than a year and a half ago. I was doing some practices that
Hmm.
were about feeling energy and then moving energy in the body and then moving
Hmm.
energy outside of the body. And I started doing the practice. It's a guided practice. And
Hmm.
I was like, okay, sure, energy, I don't know, whatever. A little bit like that.
Yeah.
And I really got into the guidance. I was really like, okay, I'm going to go into it. And I really started feeling this ball of energy moving through me. And I could actually move it in in my body, in my arms and my legs. And eventually I felt that it was around me, that I could direct it, that I
Oh,
could
wow.
orient it. Yeah, that
Uh-huh.
it had a consciousness and that it was in connection with me.
Mm-hmm.
And it totally mind blown. Like I was completely shocked by having had this experience.
Yeah.
And for me it was really foundational because it's from that point that I was then really able to go into the finer Taoist practices. One of them, which is really amazing for midlife women, actually, is called the microcosmic orbit. And so what you do is that you start cultivating and feeling and visualizing this orbit of energy in your perineum, your root chakra. And then it's
Oh.
like a specific breath work where it circulates in the back of your body, it goes until the crown, and then you circulate it to the front of the body, back down to the root chakra, and then again and again. And it's a
Mm-hmm.
beautiful, beautiful, very powerful practice for life force energy.
Mm-hmm.
And it was hard for me to do before that experience. But when I had that experience of moving energy, then it was so easy to be doing that specific practice and other ones as well.
Oh, wow. Can you describe, if you can, like how did you feel that energy? Like it has like a color, like a, I don't know, like a texture, or how could you feel that energy?
Mm, great question. And I know that that is different for every person, but for
Yeah,
me,
no.
it definitely felt like an orb of
Mhm.
white, like white going on gold light, and I could feel it kind of tingling as it was
Mhm.
circulating, and my
Mhm.
eyes were closed, but I could see it, I could feel it and see it, and at the same time. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Oh,
and I could
wow.
see that it could expand or retract very, very easily,
Mhm.
very fluidly. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think at least for me has been, as you said, like when we talk about energy, I know everything is energy, as ev- every material thing, everything on earth is energy. And it's difficult to recognize it what is not in physical form, right? Like in here in front of me is the laptop, it's then a sofa. So all that is also energy, but it is in a dense form, in a physical form. But recognize it, like the way you experience it, and probably that's why you said at the beginning, I would, I bought it. I probably would have said the same, like, oh yeah, let's do this and energy, let's see what it is, right?
Yeah.
But I have also have a few experience with feeling energy, and it's when we really can understand. Oh my God, it's really there. It exists. That we until we experience it. That my question is, because you talk about the microcosmic orbit. If we do this practice of breath, as you said, like imagining that we're breathing through our first chakra all the way back up and back through our backs, and then forward, down again, down to the first chakra. Like, what kind of benefits can we experience by doing that? I mean, I know it energizes more. We feel more, more vitality. But then if we put it in the material world, but how can we experience, or how can have you experienced it like that?
I have. It's part of,
Mhm.
I have like a vast array of morning practices, and every
Yeah,
morning, or most mornings, I should say, I choose two to four, depending on how much time I actually have. So
yeah.
the microcosmic orbit is one of them, breast massage is another one. And so I can't answer you in terms of like, I haven't done only microcosmic orbit
Oh, okay, got
for
it.
15 days to
Uh-huh.
and nothing else. So I can't
Hmm.
say this is specifically what it does, but that practice that I do regularly, and others as well in the same range,
Yeah.
what I feel like is that it it refines and it dissolves the things that might be stuck in each of my chakras. That's like on the energy level. And if you go into Taoist knowledge, what they say is that there's also, so there's glands at every single chakra. There's a major gland in our body. Okay.
Okay.
So I feel like, and I have no way of proving this, but I feel like it also really helps the gland to have more life force and energy in the physical sense. And when our glands have energy or functioning properly, are nourished in, in other words, then
Yeah.
our whole body functions amazingly and in harmony.
Mhm.
And this is one of the things for specifically for midlife women that's very, very important is that once our progesterone and estradiol starts um, to be modified and to start, going down, our whole body actually starts experiencing imbalance. So not just the ovaries, all of our
Oh,
glands. Yeah,
it
because
makes sense.
all of our glands are in one vessel and
Mhm.
it's as if they're all friends. They're a group of friends, right? So when
Yeah.
one friend is not feeling well, is dysregulated, is struggling, then all of the friends are affected, right? So we can
Mhm.
think of it that way. And so
Yeah.
when we do the microcosmic orbit and we try to not only gain or cultivate energy on a chakra level, like so on a more like subtle level, we can
Mhm.
also imagine that it's nourishing, that it's dissolving anything that is in the way of each gland working in an optimal way.
Mm.
And in that
Mhm.
way, as
Yeah.
midlife women, it can contribute to our overall balance, our overall health. It can
Yeah.
help our energy during the day. It can help our sleep during the night. It's a really, really beautiful harmonizing practice.
Yeah, it sounds delicious. Which other practices, so besides this one, or you say you do so many, well, some more, and because you are the expert in here, uh, I know a lot of women in this period during perimenopause and menopause, as you said, because there are a lot of hormone imbalances, then mm, I mean, they don't feel good, they don't function well. And I cannot express yet because I haven't arrived there yet, but I know just by hearing it, the loss of memory, the flashes, all this. What other practices we can do that it doesn't have to do with medication?
Mm. Yeah, great question. And for so many women, they can't take medication for various reasons, or they don't
Mhm.
want to. And so that's a great question. And there's so many things that women can do for themselves that is not hormonal replacement therapy, that is not medication, that isn't anti-anxiety meds, for example, things like that. So breath work is absolutely an amazing, amazing tool.
Mm.
Whether we're feeling really fatigued and we need that burst of energy, there's lots of breath work that is what we call up regulating. So if and I'm going to get a little geeky here. I'm going to
Go
talk
for
about
it.
the autonomic nervous system.
Yeah.
And so the autonomic nervous system, when we are specifically in late perimenopause and the menopause transition, our autonomic nervous system we have like very narrow capacity, which means that we can spill over in what is called a sympathetic state very easily. Sympathetic being activated, and it can go all the way to dysregulation. And what we want to regain our calm is we want to go back into safe parasympathetic mode, because there's safe, threatened, and so there's threatened parasympathetic and there's safe parasympathetic. So what we want with breath work is to go back into safe parasympathetic. And so all that to say, if we are in a parasympathetic that is fatigued, collapsed, anxiety, we're a bit frozen, we're having all these anxious thoughts, we're more like in the threatened parasympathetic. And what we want is we want to create a little bit of energy to go dip into the parasympathetic but in a way that is going to be nourishing and energizing. And then
Okay.
we want to follow that up with another practice. For example, it can be a pleasure practice. I personally always go back to pleasure because pleasure overrides everything. Literally,
Yes.
pleasure and orgasms, it overrides
Hmm.
food, nutrition, any kind of other practice that we can hope to do. Pleasure overrides it all. So, for example, one of the things with women who are very fatigued in perimenopause is they don't have enough nitric oxide in their bloodstream. And so, what brings a lot of nitric oxide is orgasms.
Mm.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
if you're fatigued, and there's many other things like you want to check your iron levels, you want to check if you have enough vitamin B. This is more like on the physiological side of things. You want to check if you have any kind of underlying thyroid condition, for example. You do want to check all of that.
Hmm.
And there's tons of really great supplements that you can take. And nitric oxide is a free chemical that you can create for yourself when you have pleasure and orgasm, or when you're
Okay.
cuddling with somebody, or when you're doing something that is just really pleasurable. So, all that to say that to shortcut all of that and make it
Yeah.
into a quick practice is you can
Yeah.
do that little bit of upregulating breath work, and then you can go into some pleasure. And pleasure can take many forms. And one of the things that I love is breast massage because
Mm.
our breasts are filled, just so filled with beautiful pleasure receptors and creators. And so when we take a
Mm.
little bit of oil, or it can be also above, the our clothing, and
Uh-huh.
we start loving our breasts and massaging our breasts, and there's like a specific way in the Taoist tradition to do it. But
Mhm.
even just massaging, just to love them and to
Mhm.
open our heart, that's a
Yeah.
great way to create a lot of oxytocin. So this
I love
two-part
that.
practice is if you're fatigued and you're feeling down and you're feeling anxious,
Mhm.
upregulating breath work, you do a little pause, you feel
Mhm.
yourself, and then you do a beautiful breast massage, create that
Mhm.
oxytocin, open your heart, and I can guarantee that you're gonna have at least a few hours of energy just from that.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
nice. I want to specify to our listeners that when she was showing how to do the breast massage, it was basically doing circles around our breast. Yeah, like from the outside to the inside. But I know we can also do it to the other side, right?
Well, so let's get into it. So in the Taoist
Okay.
tradition, what we want
Hmm.
to do is we want to go in that direction first to clear the breasts of any stagnant energy. And you only want to do that if your breasts are healthy. So if you have any suspicion that you might have a cyst, or you might have something with your breasts, or definitely if you have breast cancer, you should
Uh-huh.
probably avoid that part. And then the other part is to bring in the goodness, bring in the love. That's like the other rotation.
Okay. So
Yeah,
first is internal rotation and then it's external rotation.
exactly.
Okay.
I'm
Mhm.
sorry, the other way around actually.
Oh, okay.
External and then internal.
Hmm.
External to clear
Yeah.
and internal to bring in the goodness.
Okay.
Yeah,
Beautiful. Yeah, and I love that because, as you said, it connects us back to our heart.
exactly. And our heart, like for women, that's our positive pole. Our negative
Mhm.
pole is our genitals, and
Mhm.
our pelvic bowl. And for men, it's the contrary. Their positive pole is their
Oh,
genitals, and their
uh-huh.
negative pole is their heart.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Mm. Okay. Hmm. So my next question that I'm trying to make it up in my head, it will be because I remember once I did, yeah, with my mentor Sophia Tom, we will have this kind of exercise, a breathing exercise where we would just go actually from our um, womb, like imagining really breathing from there up to our heart and then back to our womb. It was just a breath in there, and that connection is so powerful.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's also a practice that I do when I want to connect my creativity, my creatrix, and I want to create from my heart. That's a beautiful
Mhm.
practice, especially in business. When we do that, whether it's a meditation or a breath work, it's a really beautiful
Yeah.
practice to do before delivering a podcast or a teaching or creating a course or something like that. That womb heart connection is
Mhm.
fundamental.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, because then we stay in our feminine to create. And that's much more powerful than coming from our mind. Definitely.
Absolutely. Always from the neck down.
Yes, always. I'm gonna put that one somewhere so I keep remembering.
It's a pretty good mantra.
Yes. Yeah. I love it. Mhm. Okay. Let's dive in more about sex.
Okay, let's
Yeah.
dig in.
What are some of the myths that you consider that happen about sex when we get into midlife and then
Mm,
towards perimenopause and then menopause? Like, what are kind of those myths?
hmm Oh my God, so many. You lose your libido and your desire, you become dried up, you automatically have vaginal dryness or pain during intercourse, you're not sexy anymore, you're not gonna find a partner. Oh my God, so many
Oh,
things about sex. Yeah,
or just what you mentioned, it just gave me chills. Like, it's, yeah. And I mean, and the worst thing is that we consider them, well, or at least a lot of us, bomb truths. And as you said, yeah, or not, they're just myths.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
Mm-hmm.
cultural, it's a, I call it a cultural syndrome.
Mm. Yeah. Hmm. Is it probably a way to control or manipulate us mentally so they can put us put us down?
Well, I would think so, whether it's conscious
Mm-hmm.
or unconscious,
Or
but
unconscious, yeah.
definitely because when we get to, menopause and then postmenopause more particularly, we are
Mm-hmm.
not controlled by our hormones anymore, right? And the
Mm.
thing that is interesting with estradiol and progesterone is that progesterone is kind of like a mild sedative. So you're like a little tiny bit asleep. And then estradiol is the hormone of caring and nurturing and self-sacrificing and people pleasing, like getting along with others and things like that, right? So
Yeah.
if you think of these two hormones as a carpet, all of our deepest, let's say, deeper desires or our deeper sense of self, our boundaries, all of that is kind of like cushioned by these hormones. And when these hormones start disappearing,
Mm-hmm.
lo and behold, our anger can start coming up, our realizing, our awareness, our clarity about so many things that have been happening in our life can start emerging into our consciousness. And I don't think I think it's very significant that
Mm-hmm.
many divorces in long-term relationship between men and women occur in midlife initiated by women.
Mm.
I think it's between 60 and 70% of divorce of long-term heterosexual relationships happen in
Yes.
between 45 and 55, initiated by women. So that's very
Oh,
significant.
wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So to your point that you were alluding to, when we are not controlled by our own hormones, we are therefore uncontrolled. We are therefore much more in our own self, in our own empowerment,
Yeah.
right? And so, and
Uh-huh.
that's when we start talking, and that's when we start
Speaking our truth,
speaking our truth, in
setting
all
our
these things.
boundaries. Yes.
Exactly. Setting boundaries, being courageous,
Mm-hmm.
wanting to exercise our power, wanting to be known for our wisdom, known for our work. And that's when we become these And that's why they called us the shrews and the witches and all these things, because they couldn't control us,
Yes to
because
the
we're not
witches.
exactly. And so, yeah, it's absolutely, because when they can't control us with marriage or fertility, or saying like, oh, you're never going to find a man, and like, what are they going to control us with? They're going to control us with, you have no more value, you should just disappear, you're irrelevant, your voice doesn't matter, all these things. And one of my mentors, what she says is, anything that the patriarchy throws at you and that you have embedded in your own consciousness,
Mhm.
that's the medicine. That's what you have to work on dissolving to free and liberate yourself.
Mm. Yeah.
Very, very interesting work.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I've heard, I follow this guy. He's also kind of like a coach, mentor, whatever. He doesn't like labels. He's from Mexico. And he talks about, yeah, women being the first ones, setting up for a divorce. And what you just said, it makes a lot of sense, because it's when we start waking up really to who we are. I mean, and at that point, we don't want to be the mom of the husband anymore. We don't want to have to deal with their vices or having to take care of all the financial stuff, and or being in, I mean, I don't have kids, but just being you in charge of the kids, even when this person can do it as well. And yeah, I guess there is just a point that you just get so fed up that we just, as you said, we get out of control, between quotes, because what I realized is, us as women, we don't take decisions radically. It has to be, we get signs, we try to talk to the partner and give our point of view, and then trying to put it in so fucking many different ways. And when they don't get it after so many months or years, and I'm talking for my personal experience, at one point it's like, this is it. But it was not yesterday that I took the decision. It has been gradually coming, and this decision, and for me it took me like 2-3 years. And what I realized, for a lot of us women, then is like, yeah, no, I'm done. There's not even a way that I want to be back, because I'm done. I tried to tell you with many ways, and you just didn't fucking pick up.
Yeah. And what you're saying, like, hundreds of millions of people, I think, have gone through that. I've gone through that in, my
Yeah.
ex-marriage. Um, and I think that it comes with the territory of being nurturers, of being people who naturally, biologically, hormonally, we care about relationships.
Yes.
We care so much, and we're wired. I mean, all humans are, but for
Mm-hmm.
us, we have an extra layer of needing to be connected to others, because hormonally, estradiol is one of our dominant hormones, and estradiol is the nurturing hormone,
Oh, okay.
right? And so when that hormone starts fluctuating, that's when, that's when our brains start transforming, and that's when,
Mm-hmm.
as I was saying, like, our fire, our boundaries, our clarity, our voice starts coming up as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So, to our dear listeners who are in these realms of separation and divorce, here you have a huge answer to probably your feeling of guilt or of shame, if you are actually, yeah, if you already took the decision or are in the path of taking the decision or leaving your relationship. Give it a that, because you're not alone, and it means that it's time for your awakening. It's
Mm,
time for the midlife butterfly to come out.
absolutely. Yeah. And
Oh.
there's so much, I mean, it's such a rich topic. Um, and I think that the piece about desire and libido
Mm.
and sex is also incredibly, incredibly important. And you alluded to it a couple of minutes ago. It's also a big, big sign for women, anxiety also being another, there's many, but
Mhm.
the desire in partnership when you have a sexual partner is also a very, very big sign that there is not only this modification of the hormones, but the modification of our psyche, of our again, of our soma, of our body mind. And for a
Mm.
lot of women, it can be very difficult because, some of my clients, for example, they come to me because they say, "Oh, I've had spontaneous desire and no problem orgasming and all these things for their whole lives." And then midlife happens around 40, 45, 50, and suddenly things are very difficult. And
Mm.
a part of their identity could have been woven in with this, I'm a sexual woman. I'm a woman who orgasms easily. I'm a woman who loves pleasure. I'm a woman who loves my partner. And suddenly they don't have spontaneous desire. Sometimes their partner actually repels them. Like they're like, don't even touch me. Even
Oh
their
wow.
breathing annoys them, you know? And
Okay.
they're having a lot of sexual, we shouldn't call it that, but what is known as sexual dysfunction. But I
Okay.
think for me, it's more like it's a sign that something needs to be transformed.
Okay.
And it can be very painful, very difficult.
Mm. Wow. Yeah, because as you said, it's part of their identity. And then if it's shifting, there's some self grief and some, yeah, let go of that part of the person, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm. How can we, as women, and I include myself in here because sex has been a taboo at home. Like I never talk about sex with my parents, like never. It
Mm,
was like no conversation at all. And because of that, there was that created a lot of shame and guilt,
mm,
right? And I know there's a lot of women also in that. How can we mm, release that guilt and that shame that we have been accumulated for decades?
mm. Beautiful question. So it's very common that around midlife, women start to have, again, I don't like the term sexual dysfunction, but these
Mhm.
signs that
Yeah.
sexually something, needs a shift. And most of the time, if not always, it's going to be related to some kind of sexual healing that we need to be doing, right? So whether
Mm-hmm.
it's in some cases, it's going to be sexual violation, whether it's rape or whether it's, an event that you didn't consent to in the past or a series of these kinds of events. It
Mm-hmm.
can be mindset, like cultural mindset about what is a woman, a good girl, as it relates
Mm-hmm.
to sexuality, as it relates to pleasure, as it relates to climaxing, orgasming, the number of partners that you might have had, the whether it's okay or not to self pleasure. All of these things start coming up in midlife, actually, because again,
Mm-hmm.
this beautiful carpet of hormones has been
Yeah.
keeping a lot underneath it. So many things under the carpet. So when that carpet starts dissipating,
Yeah.
all of these things start coming up, and the sex piece really can play a number on us. And in my personal practice, I know that for some of my clients, there's practices like, inner child healing, inner reparenting, um, going back to certain events that might have happened and, being guided through some self healing, whether it's through meditation or through
Mm-hmm.
pleasure practices or through, like I have a very specific orientation with that.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's changing the narrative that we have about certain things. I have like a really beautiful 4 session process actually to reclaim and then master one's sexual energy. It's like, it's so beautiful. And it's very somatic. Again, it's like very
Mm.
body based.
Yeah.
And the women I've taken through that particular 4 session, like all of them have had amazing transformations. Or whether
Wow.
it's sexual dryness, like what is your vagina trying to tell you, right? Like
Mm.
why is it painful?
Yeah.
Do you,
Mm.
what does that mean? And to really inquire. And again, what does she need? What does your clitoris need? What do your vaginal walls need? Do they need more nourishment? Do they need more
Mm.
energy? Do they need slowness? Do they need presence? Because again, once our sex hormones start shifting,
Mhm.
the urge, or what we call spontaneous desire, can become responsive desire. We can shift from, I really want sex like actively, and I'm actively going to go and ask my partner, like, let's have sex, to being very responsive. Like, it's not that you don't want it, it's that you would prefer the person to come to you or create the conditions under which sex
Mm.
can just blossom, right? Instead of
Yeah.
being more of a yang sexuality, it becomes more of a yin sexuality. So, what I
Mm.
always try to tell my clients is how can we just get curious about what this means, what this transformation, like what are the breadcrumbs, what are the signs that we can start connecting with. And again, it's like that tantric approach of let's connect, let's get intimate with these parts, with these
Mhm.
pieces, and
Yeah.
let's see what is their wisdom. And when we go that way, the body relaxes. Usually the vagina will relax as
Mm.
well. And we go with like a lot of slowness, a lot of presence, a lot of love, of course, with, energy, nourishing these gentle, these fragile sometimes parts.
Mhm.
There's just so much that we can do with this dimension of our life. That's so, so important for women.
Oh, wow. It is important, and unfortunately, because of culture of our education, we tend to deny it or to ignore it, unfortunately.
Absolutely. And even just not ignoring it anymore, just that can be very
Mhm.
healing to the body.
Mm.
Even just, engaging in, whether it's coaching or whether it's trying to find things for that you do for yourself, but just even putting attention and awareness and love and presence into that, even just that can be so, so healing.
Mhm. Yeah, I can relate to that. Is when I started connecting to my womb, to my pussy. It's when things started shifting. Sorry, and it created a big difference because there was something that I was ignoring. So
Hmm.
just by starting putting attention, and then it's so wise, our womb. It is so wise.
Yeah, she is, our womb, all of our genitals in our womb, they hold the essence of our power as women.
Mm.
So when we start connecting to that part of our body, also is when we start really reconnecting to that deep, deep, deep feminine power.
Ah, beautiful. Mm. Ah, what a better way to finish this thing. With our pussies and knowing that our power is right there.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, dear Luz, what would you call this stage of your midlife butterfly?
Mm. So, according to one of my mentors, Jane Hardwick Collins, who she teaches the Women's Wheel of Life and the season, the women's seasons.
Mm-hmm,
Of course, I'm in my autumn and my fall, but
mm-hmm.
because I'm in my early 50s and the autumn goes until the 70s, I am in the spring of my autumn.
The spring of your autumn.
Yeah,
Okay, I
yeah.
love that. Oh, I can imagine like flowers with the colors of autumn. That could be so beautiful.
Exactly,
I love
exactly.
that. Ah, that's great. What is a simple pleasure that you enjoy the most?
Oof. Wow. I would say in the morning, it's waking up and putting a hand over my vulva and really uh, saying hello, good morning, I love
Oh,
you, and just feeling her pulsating.
oh my God, I love that. And where can the listeners find you?
Listeners can find me on my website, emergence.co, my Instagram handle, emergence.co as well, and preferably my Facebook group that is called Menopause is Your Superpower. Welcome to the Midlife Temple, or Midlife Temple for short.
Mhm.
That is where I do most of my teaching. I go live almost every day in that group. And I have a beautiful program right now that is launched because I
Eva.
think this is coming out in July and we're in June. So
Yes,
it's called Aging with Eros. So if anything I have said today is of any kind of interest, we're going to go much deeper into all of it during 4 months. So from August to November, November, with a live embodiment retreat that's going to be occurring October 2 to 5th in Ontario. And where I'm so excited, I'm co-creating this with a colleague who she is in the winter of her autumn. So we are in both spectrums of the autumn.
yeah.
She's called Linda. She's amazing. And we are going to be holding this space together for 4 months as well as the retreat. So, and just for your listeners,
Yes.
you get a special 15% off.
Oh, wow, that is great. I think that
Yeah.
will be a promo code or something.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, I'm gonna put all that information in the show notes. Thank you so much, Luz. It has been such a nourishing, mind opening for me, and hopefully down to my neck more experience from now
Mm,
on. And thank you so much for being here. I love you so much.
my pleasure. I love you so much.
Thank you for tuning into Midlife Butterfly. If this episode lit a spark in you, hit that subscribe or follow button on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you love to listen so you'll never miss the magic. If you're feeling generous, drop a review on Apple Podcasts. It helps this empowering content reach more souls ready to transform their lives. And don't forget to take a photo of you while listening and share it on your socials. You can tag me at KenasYou so I can celebrate you and your expansion. Until next time, keep spreading those wings and living in joy, growth, and pleasure.